Brazil, controlled chaos. Before the UFC had rules, gloves, or pay-per-views, Brazil had veil tudo, translation, anything goes, and they meant it. No weight classes, no time limits, no mercy. It was a backyard brawl meets a philosophy degree, because somewhere in that madness, the Gracie family was busy inventing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. While Americans were punching bags in karate classes, the Gracies were triangle choking people unconscious in garage fights with no tap-outs. By the time Royce Gracie showed up to UFC, one wearing a bathrobe and choking out giants, it wasn't a surprise, it was an ambush. BJJ became the backbone, but Brazil's style didn't stop at the mat. They mixed in Muay Thai, only Brazilian Muay Thai is like Thai Muay Thai after 6 shots of espresso. Where Thai fighters are patient and technical, Brazilians fight like their house is on fire, spinning elbows, flying knees, jumping kicks, all mid-brawl. It's beautiful chaos. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They throw until the perfect moment gets scared and leaves. Charles Oliveira is the blueprint. Most submission wins in UFC history. The man grapples like a python but fights like he's got a vendetta against his own chin. He'll get dropped, smile through blood, then slap on a triangle and end the fight like it was all part of the plan. Then there's Jose Aldo, the leg kick executioner. 12 seconds of pure violence could tell you everything about his career. Nobody chopped legs like Aldo, and nobody understood takedown defense better. He turned wrestlers into desperate strikers and strikers into regrets. Brazilian fighters fight forward, even when tired, even when losing. It looks wild, but there's an algorithm underneath. Pressure, pace, pain. Russia, pressure and ice. Russian MMA doesn't start in a gym. It starts in the mountains. Cold air, no distractions, just kids learning how to wrestle before they can spell it. 2 words define Russian style: Sambo and suffocation. Sambo was the Soviet Union's gift to the combat world, a Frankenstein of judo, wrestling, and street fighting, engineered for the military, not medals. It's got throws, leg locks, striking, and absolutely zero interest in looking pretty. Then there's freestyle wrestling, especially in the Caucasus regions, Dagestan, Chechnya, where grappling is practically a second language. Kids don't just train, they compete against each other, against gravity, against the idea of weakness itself. Enter Khabib Nurmagomedov. No flash, no trash talk, just pressure. He didn't fight angry, he fought like he was running a business. Takedown, trap, maul, repeat. Chain wrestling so relentless, it felt like fighting a fax machine that just kept resending submissions. And then there's Islam Makhachev, same blueprint but with upgraded striking, cleaner kicks, better range, less grizzle, more polish, like if Khabib had a Muay Thai minor. But Russian MMA isn't a one-trick mountain monster. Petr Yan, Siberian sniper, orthodox boxing base, high guard, ridiculous shot selection. If Khabib drowns you, Yan dissects you, quietly, violently. There's no single Russian style. There's a Russian code. Pressure first, break the rhythm, make you miserable, then end it clean. They don't fight for fun. They fight for dominance, for honor, for the guys watching back home in the cold who trained with them. Russian MMA isn't loud. It's not pretty. It's a frostbite handshake and a bear trap follow-up. Mexico, heart and hands. Mexican MMA doesn't come from gyms, it comes from pain tolerance, from a boxing culture where taking 1 to give 2 isn't a flaw, it's a feature. If there's a national playbook, it's this: walk forward, eat damage, throw harder, and never ever stop moving. Mexico has always known how to fight, but now it's learning how to grapple. That's the evolution. The spirit, that's always been there. The backbone is boxing, not the Mayweather kind, the Julio Cesar Chavez kind. Pressure, body shots, combos that don't stop until the other guy breaks, or the bell does. Mexican MMA is that, but with 4-ounce gloves and no place to hide. Brandon Moreno made history as the first Mexican-born UFC champion. He didn't do it with brute force. He did it with grit, scrambles, and endless energy. He's not flashy, he's just impossible to shake. Hurt him? He smiles. Take him down, he scrambles. Try to break him. Good luck. Then there's Yair Rodriguez, the chaos artist. He's spinning elbows, jumping knees, off the cage kicks that make the rules feel optional. Yair doesn't fight in a straight line. He paints the cage with motion and forces you to chase him through hell. But what about the ground game? Historically, it was Mexico's weak spot. Not enough wrestling rooms, not enough black belts. But that's changing, fast. Fighters are training abroad, bringing elite coaches home. Grappling's catching up. The cardio, that never needed fixing. Because because Mexican fighters don't gas out. They don't mentally fold. Even when they're losing, they're still coming at you. And if you leave the door open for a moment, just one, they kick it in. USA, the wrestling engine. America didn't invent MMA, but it definitely put it in a cage, gave it a rulebook, and told it to make weight. From UFC 1 onward, the US brought its favorite weapon, Division 1 wrestling. Not the kind with robes and chairs, the kind that makes you hate stairs and fear mat burns. American MMA is built on control, takedowns, top pressure, and ground and pound. The blueprint is simple. Take you down, hold you there, make you wish the round was shorter. Guys like Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, and John Jones didn't just wrestle, they suffocated. But here's the twist. Americans don't just wrestle, they weaponize it. They strike to wrestle, wrestle to strike. It's not about the move, it's about the sequence. Ground and pound? That's an American signature. Brazilians might hunt for subs. Americans just posture up and drop elbows like bad news from orbit. Then there's the system. Gyms like Jackson Wink, American Top Team, and AKA didn't just train fighters. They built fight IQ, game plans, strategy, cardio for 5 rounds, and answers for every position. And the striking, it's a melting pot. Boxing from Philly, kickboxing from LA, Muay Thai from Florida. Nobody in the US fights the same because nobody in the US is built the same. American fighters aren't defined by a single style. They're defined by adaptation. They show up with a playbook and they execute it like a quarterback reading cover 2 defense. Only instead of a pass, it's a knee to the ribs. United Kingdom, the working class striker. Before there was ground and pound, the UK gave us bare-knuckle brawlers, pub fighters, and world champion boxers. British MMA didn't grow out of dojos, it crawled out of spit buckets and brick gyms, swinging hooks and wiping blood on its sleeve. At its core, British style is boxing first. Fast jabs, tight footwork, in and out rhythm. Fighters from the UK don't try to win the fight in one punch. They chip away, round by round, like they're late for a shift and the guy in front is the reason. Michael Bisping was the prototype. 0 wrestling pedigree, no black belt, just volume, cardio, and the audacity to keep punching while half blind. He wasn't flashy, he was functional, and that's exactly what made him dangerous. But the style didn't stop there. Enter Leon Edwards, smooth Muay Thai, sniper timing, and the calmness of a man who's been quietly downloading your habits for 14 minutes before kicking your soul out of your body. British MMA evolved. It added clinch work, elbows, knees, submission defense. It got sharper, but never lost the grit. Wrestling still isn't the UK's strongest suit, yet. But they've learned how to survive it. Sprawl, scramble, reset. Turn every fight into a stand-up war, and bet on their hands to do the rest. And through it all, there's the working class spirit. These fighters come from cold gyms, crowded buses, and towns where being tough was just step 1. You don't see a lot of flash. You see guys who didn't get here by hype. They got here by grinding when no one was watching. Australia, rugged calm. Australian MMA didn't start with legends. It started with leftovers, a few tough strikers, some local comps, a long flight from relevance, and then it evolved fast. Now, Australian fighters are known for what they don't do. They don't rush, they don't panic, they don't swing wild just to make a highlight reel. They download. Alexander Volkanovski is the blueprint, a rugby tank turned featherweight king. He doesn't explode, he decodes. Every round, every exchange, he gathers data, and once he's read your game, it's checkmate. Then there's Jack Della Maddalena, all business, high guard, tight combos, surgical body shots. His style looks like 1940s boxing on fast forward. Every step he takes cuts the cage. Every punch lands like it's been rehearsed in a mirror for 10 years. Australian striking is clean. It pulls from Western kickboxing and Muay Thai, but with an Aussie twist. Throw hard, but throw smart. No wasted motion, no ego punches. The grappling used to be the Achilles heel, not anymore. Now they train overseas, bring elite coaches home, and treat takedown defense like religion. Volk stuffed Islam for 4 rounds. That's not luck, that's systems. And when the brawl breaks out, they're ready for that too. Fighters like Jamie Malarkey and Tyson Pedro don't fold under pressure. They bite down and fire back. It's composure wrapped in violence. Ireland, range and rhythm. Irish MMA doesn't have quantity, it has impact, and it started with one name, Conor McGregor. When McGregor showed up in 2013, he didn't just fight, he predicted, performed, and punished, usually in that order. Southpaw stance, wide base, laser left hand. He moved like karate, struck like boxing, and ran his mouth like a man who knew the ending before the first punch. His style was range and rhythm, control the distance, bait the rush, punish the mistake. He didn't chase chaos, he orchestrated it. But Irish MMA didn't stop when Conor put on a suit. Now it's Ian Gary, taller, leaner, colder. He fights like a stretched blueprint of McGregor. Long-range jabs, step-ins, feints, counters. Less knockout artist, more methodical dismantler. Irish fighters bring sniper energy, measured, calculated, surgical. They don't smother, they sharpen. But grappling, still a work in progress. Ireland doesn't have a wrestling scene, not really. Most fighters train abroad, lean on defensive jiu-jitsu, and build systems to get back to the feet, not fight on the ground. That's the trade-off, lethal striking, slick movement. But if they get planted by a Dagestani, it's survival mode. Still, Irish MMA isn't about overwhelming opponents. It's about outthinking them and doing it with a grin. Because whether it's a left hand from Conor or a jab from Ian, it's coming from a fighter who believes, without hesitation, that they were born to do this. Georgia, the wrestling storm. In Georgia, wrestling isn't a sport, it's survival. Kids don't just train, they compete and they don't quit, because quitting isn't cultural. The national style? Combat Sambo meets Greco-Roman grit. It's hips, pressure, and pace. No flash, no waste, just power moves and punishment. Merab Dvalishvili is the storm. Takedown after takedown, clinch after clinch, scramble after scramble. He doesn't break rhythm, he creates one. And it's exhausting. For him, the bell is just a formality. He fights like the clock owes him something. His nickname? The Machine. Not because he's mechanical, but because he never stops moving. Other names like Ilya Topuria and Guram Kutataladze bring violence and volume. Georgia's new wave strikes harder, faster, meaner, but it's all built on that wrestling base. Takedown, pressure, smash. Striking in Georgia, it's catching up. The finesse isn't always there, but the power is. And when it lands, you feel every kilo of mountain-grown muscle behind it. At the core of Georgian MMA is the same thing that built its wrestlers: national pride. These fighters carry their coaches, their villages, and their families into the cage. They don't come to win by decision, they come to dominate. Georgia doesn't play chess, it flips the board. China, the split path. China's most famous martial artist never stepped inside an MMA cage, but his fingerprints are everywhere. Bruce Lee believed in adapting, mixing styles, and fighting without limits. Today's Chinese fighters are finally doing just that, for real. Chinese MMA doesn't follow one road, it follows two, and they couldn't look more different. On one side, there's Sanda. Born from the Chinese military, it's a striking system that blends boxing, kickboxing, and wrestling. Fast hands, flash kicks, trips and throws straight from the mat to the cage. On the other side, there's folk wrestling, passed down by ethnic minorities in the rural West. Yi, Kazakh, Mongol fighters growing up on dirt floors and combat rules passed down in family stories. That's the paradox of Chinese MMA. Urban Sanda Flash meets mountain-born grind. Sanda fighters like Zhang Wei Li fight with power and poise. She's not just fast, she's built like a brick and moves like a whip. Pressure, hooks, and endless conditioning. She throws combinations like she's solving equations mid-fight. Then you've got the wrestlers. Men and women from remote villages, walking miles to practice, growing up where toughness isn't a trait, it's a requirement. Fighters like Song Yadong and Sumuderji are products of both worlds. The polish of modern training with the edge of old-school survival. The result? A new generation of Chinese fighters who can do it all: strike, sprawl, scramble, and finish. But here's the truth: China doesn't have a deep MMA history. Not yet. Most fighters are still first generation. The infrastructure is growing, the talent is raw, but the hunger, it's real. Thailand and Myanmar, the striking bloodline. If striking has a homeland, it lives here, somewhere between the Thai ring and the Burmese pit. Thailand gave the world Muay Thai, the art of 8 limbs. Elbows like blades, knees like hammers, clinch control so suffocating it feels like quicksand. It's not just a fighting style, it's a national identity. Thai MMA fighters bring that discipline into the cage. Sharp kicks, smart pressure. They're not wild, they're measured violence. Every movement has a purpose, every strike is part of a plan, but the transition hasn't been easy. Muay Thai fighters are elite in their world, but the cage requires more than pads and ropes. Ground game is the learning curve. Slowly they're adapting. Clinch work translates, so do elbows, but MMA's ground and pound is still a foreign language for most. Then there's Myanmar, where they don't just allow headbutts, they encourage them. Lethwei is the art of 9 limbs, bare knuckle, no gloves, no rounds. If no one gets knocked out, it's a draw. It's less of a sport and more of a rite of passage. Lethwei fighters walk into MMA with one thing guaranteed: they're not afraid of getting hit. Fighters like Dave LeDuc put it on the map, but others are starting to cross over. With heavy hands, hard heads, and zero fear. Where Muay Thai is structure and tradition, Lethwei is chaos and pain tolerance. Together they form the extremes of Southeast Asian striking. In MMA, that means devastating elbows from the Thai side and psychotic pressure from the Burmese side. They don't always win on technique, but they always win on spectacle. And as grappling levels up in regional camps, so will the threat. Because when a Lethwei vet learns to sprawl, or a Muay Thai master develops submissions, you're no longer dealing with a striker, you're dealing with a warhead. Japan, the philosopher's fight. If Brazil birthed the ground game and America built the grind, Japan gave MMA its soul. Before the UFC, before gloves, before weight classes, Japan had Shudo, Pancrase, and pride. Not just promotions, movements, experiments in martial philosophy disguised as violence. The Japanese style? A blend of catch wrestling, judo, karate, and just enough pro wrestling absurdity to keep things dangerous. This wasn't just fighting, it was art, strategy, drama, and a little madness. Kazushi Sakuraba, the Gracie Hunter, was the blueprint. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but he thought in real time, rolled with chaos, baited legends, and tapped them with a smile. He wasn't fighting to win, he was fighting to outthink. Japanese MMA isn't built on power, it's built on transition, sweeps, reversals, trips in the clinch, knees from nowhere. It's the style that lets you lose a round and win a moment. And sometimes that's all it takes. Then there's the striking. Karate roots with precise footwork, upright posture, and that sharp, snappy rhythm. Fighters like Takanori Gomi brought bombs with accuracy. Others, like Shinya Aoki, folded you in half with submissions that looked like puzzles. And yes, Japanese MMA has faded in global visibility. Pride is gone. The UFC spotlight moved west, but the style still there. In Risen, in gyms across Tokyo, in fighters raised on respect, technique, and old fight tapes where warriors bowed before they broke bones. Japan doesn't fight like it's trying to win, it fights like it's trying to understand. Every movement has a reason, every risk has a question behind it. What happens if I try this? It's not always efficient, not always dominant, but it's beautiful. It's chess with sweat. In Japan, fighting isn't chaos, it's clarity.